has prepared me for this particular job at this particular time.
Over 25 years ago, Tom Suozzi became one of the first public officials to offer help to undocumented workers.
Men who are looking for work could gather at one location. And if you didn't get paid, someone would advocate for you. And if you didn't get hired, you could stay and learn English or a job skill.
As Nassau County executive, he oversaw the lowest crime rate in the history of Long Island.
We did gun buyback programs to get the guns off the street.
Tom felt that the police.
Yeah, I'm Tom Suozzi. I'm running for governor of New York State. And I'll be very brief and just say that when looking at this race for governor, I'm asking people to look at three things. One, who has the proven executive experience to do the job? I'm trained as a certified public accountant and an attorney. I was the mayor of my hometown, the small city of Glen Cove, for 8 years. I did my 10,000 hours to learn how to run government, make it work, turned the place around. I was the county executive of Nassau County for 8 years. Larger than 11 states in the United States of America. My budget in Nassau County was bigger than the budget Bill Clinton had when he was governor of Arkansas. And I ran the 12th largest police department in the United States of America, bigger than Detroit or Boston. And when I left, we had the lowest crime rate in the United States for any community over 500,000 people. And I've been in Congress for the past 5.5 years. So I know how government works. I know how to get things done. I know how to solve problems. And how to work together to make things better for people. Number two, I'm a common sense Democrat. I'm not going to pander to the left. I'm not going to back down to the right. I'll work with anybody if you really want to help the people. I'll work with Democrats. I'll work with Republicans. I'll work with progressives. I'll work with moderates. I'll work with anybody who genuinely wants to help people just to get the job done. I'm a Democrat, lifelong Democrat. I'm not going to change my values, but I'll work with anybody to try and find the common ground to get things done. And number three, I'm very clear about the issues I'm focused on. You don't have to guess about what my priorities are. We have to reduce crime. We have to reduce taxes and make New York State more affordable for people because everybody's leaving. Everybody on this call knows somebody that moved to Florida or North Carolina or South Carolina or Texas or Arizona. And number three, we need to help our children in our troubled schools. Too many children have been left behind for a long, long time. And if a kid doesn't have an opportunity to succeed in school, it's going to be much harder for them to succeed in life. Bishop Desmond Tutu used to say, we spent a lifetime pulling people out of the river. Let's go upstream and stop them from falling in the river in the first place. 75% of the people in jail have a drug, alcohol, or mental health issue. 50% of the people at Rikers Island have a learning disability. We have to do a better job helping young people so that their small problems at young ages don't become big problems later on in life. So those are my big focuses. I guess I added a fourth focus. New York State's the most corrupt state in the United States of America. We've seen so many elected officials lose their jobs because of scandal, whether it's the past three governors or the former Attorney General Eric Schneiderman or Alan Hevesi or Shelley Silver or Joe Bruno or Dean Skelos or dozens of other elected officials. The lieutenant governor just got arrested for bribery and corruption. That's not normal. And when politicians don't feel they're accountable to the public and they don't feel like they have to be responsive to the people, they don't listen to the people. And the people right now care about crime, affordability, and kids in schools. So thank you so much for having me together with you. And I want to look forward to taking any questions you have for me.
Absolutely. Once again, my name is Mory Kouyate. I'm the chair of the African Immigrant Commission of New York and Connecticut. We are a community-based organization that does advocacy in the community. But, and my co-host is Dr. Yoluswa Edebe. She's the co-founder of Dungeon LLC and We the People Fund. She has a few questions on immigration and gun violence and affordable housing. Dr. Yoluswa, please go ahead. And she's from South Africa.
Oh, good evening, Congressman. Thank you again for joining us this evening. I was very pleased and honored to be invited to co-moderate this evening with Mory and all these great African leaders that we have here today. Mory stated earlier in the evening that it's really essential for those of us that go out into our communities to galvanize, to be able to know whom we're galvanizing our communities behind. I want to say that it's very interesting to me, your perspective that you just brought around the systemic reasons for the violence and for people who are in incarceration, and starting at the root causes of issues prior to just criminalizing so much. I think that's actually quite a refreshing take. And so that makes this evening a lot more promising to me in terms of our conversation. As you said, I've been in New York since I was 3 years old. I'm South African, but I'm a New Yorker. And it's been very disheartening to see the corruption. And so it's very much now kind of a do make it or break it moment for all of us in these midterms in particular, prior to our 2024. And so one of my first questions to you, Congressman, is I know that you were on the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force. And I know obviously that you've been keeping up with the level of violence and crime that our state and our city in particular, New York City, has been having a crime wave. Every week there are children, there are elderly, there are bystanders. It's just a level that I don't remember since maybe the 90s. And so I'm curious if you could just share with us a bit about what some of your vision would be around combating the illegal firearms sale that is rampant in our state and in our city right now.
My dog is barking. 1 second. I'm sorry. So, listen, thank you so much, Doctor. That's such an important question. And it's so upsetting, you know, all the people whose lives have been ruined by gun violence. And it's, you know, it's hard for me to even give my normal answers because it's just so overwhelming when you hear about these children that were just killed down in Texas, or the racist massacre that just took place up in Buffalo, or just it goes on and on and on. And it's really a national problem as opposed to just a state problem, because, you know, we just can't do anything. We've been talking about this for 30 years. You said you've been here since you're 3 years old. I mean, so I'm sure you're in your 20s now, maybe. So the
34, but thank you.
You know, I remember when Ronald Reagan was shot, and we were talking about gun violence then. When I first became the mayor of my hometown was when Carolyn McCarthy's husband was killed on the Long Island Railroad. You know, this goes back, we've been talking about this for years, and we just haven't been able to address it as a nation. And I'm just so frustrated. And the NRA has such power over so many politicians, the National Rifle Association. I have an F rating from the NRA. You know, Governor Hochul, when she was in Congress, actually had an A rating from the NRA. She was endorsed by the NRA. Now she's changed her position now, but I mean, it drives me crazy when she talks about what Washington has to do. Here in New York State, we have some of the strictest gun laws in the country. I have a 15-point crime intervention and prevention plan. One of my items in my intervention and prevention plan is what's called the red flag law, which is a great law in New York State, but it hasn't been properly implemented. It was passed 3 years ago, whereby a family member,
Sorry, please mute yourself. Hello.
Sorry.
Yep. Sorry about that, Congressman.
Okay. Fatumata.
How are you?
Hello there. They just asked if they want to put you on mute for a second.
Yes.
Thank you. So point 14 of my 15-point crime intervention and prevention plan is to implement the red flag law, which is that a teacher, a family member, a social worker, a police officer, if they know somebody has a mental instability or a drug and alcohol problem and they have a gun, you can take the gun away from that person. More basic with crime overall, but also with guns, is, you know, the mayor is trying to do a job to go after crime. He's trying so hard. Arrests are at a 20-year high. Gun arrests are at a 28-year high. But people get arrested and then they get out right away because they changed the laws. And that's the state has changed those laws. It's almost become a revolving door. So I talk about these long-term preventative things we need to do, which are systemic changes related to education and violence interrupters and drugs, alcohol, and mental health. But then there's things we need to do immediately to just stop the violence because people are afraid to take the subway. People are afraid to go to certain neighborhoods. But it's anywhere now because this guy who got killed on the subway over the weekend was going from Brooklyn to Manhattan to work on a Sunday morning. He got shot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's everybody's nightmare.
Yeah.
So we have so much to do. I support what the mayor's doing 100%. I endorsed the mayor very early on, Mayor Adams. He asked me to serve as his deputy mayor. I said, I'm not going to be your deputy mayor. I'm running for governor. I can do more to help you as governor than I can as your deputy mayor. But I want to help him to tackle crime. I want to help the state to tackle crime. And we have to change some of the state laws, giving judges the discretion to consider dangerousness. We need to help mentally ill people who are not taking their medication to get into treatment. And they can't just say, no, I don't want to go. Because if they're a danger to themselves or to other people, we have to get people to take their medication and get the support that they need. So there's a whole 15-point plan. But it goes the gamut, as you said in your opening remarks, from the law and order part, but also the health and human services part, which is the long-term systemic breakdown we have in the system here in New York State.
Yes, yes. Mory, did you want to follow up with your question as well next? Thank you very much, Congressman.
Thank you, Doctor.
You can go ahead because we have about 15 more minutes.
Okay.
So that the congressman's time is really limited.
I'll try and do shorter answers so I don't talk so long. I'm sorry.
No worries. So I guess it's a good segue since you did bring up our current governor. Our current governor's recently released a 25 billion or so budget around housing and affordable housing. As you very well know, we've had affordable housing in this state and in the city for a number of years, but accessibility to that affordable housing has never been across the board. It's also been very ill-maintained, which is part of what the devastation as African community we faced at the top of this year with what happened in the Bronx fires of ill-maintained buildings and the punishment of bad maintenance that comes with being working class and poor. And so I'm curious, Governor, what would be your vision for a way, like you mentioned earlier, that people are leaving? A lot of my friends I grew up with also, when they were having their own families or wanted to move out, couldn't find themselves in our own city simply because they had to live with either 5 other roommates if they wanted to be independent. And so many would love to also be able to raise their children in the city that we grew up in. And so what is your current vision for a way to create more affordable housing that welcomes back, but also retains all the talent and the brains and the excellence of New Yorkers?
Well, let me first say that I went up to the Bronx after the Bronx fires. I actually gave some money for my campaign to the Gambian Youth Organization. And I just got a call tonight from one of the imams from the community. And then he called me back and he said, I can't talk right now, but I'm not sure why he was calling me. I don't know if he knew about this meeting tonight or he was going to give me some advice, maybe. I don't know. But it's another thing that's just a disgrace. It's an example of how poorly government is run. We have the New York City Housing Authority, which is, housing is not a one-size-fits-all. There's people who live in public housing. There's a need to increase the supply of housing and affordable housing. There's tax credits. There's the need to go up in certain areas and build more apartments. We have to move towards home ownership.
Yes.
So I had some meetings this past week. I went to the Queensbridge housing in Queens, and I went to the Jamaica houses. These are public housing from NYC over in Jamaica. And did you know that in the New York City Housing Authority, there are 25,000 families that make over $100,000 a year? I was shocked when I heard that. And the idea behind that housing originally was to move towards home ownership. And I think that, I have a big bias in favor of home ownership.
Yeah.
Because ownership is the way to create generational wealth.
Yes.
The reason a lot of Black Americans got frozen out of generational wealth creation was because out in Nassau County, where I'm from, they created affordable housing for the veterans after World War II in a place called Levittown. But they specifically excluded Blacks from moving there. So people got this affordable housing as veterans after World War II for very inexpensive housing at the time, $10,000, $12,000. And now those houses are worth $600,000 or $700,000. And so when the parents pass away, they pass on that house to their children. That's how you create generational wealth. Where Black Americans were frozen out of that. So I'm kind of going a little bit all over the place here, but the bottom line is, in the case of the housing authority, I just thought about this weekend for the first time when meeting with these folks, because I've been learning more about the housing authorities, is we have to create some home ownership and transition from these ghettos of poor people and move towards vouchers for Section 8 housing so you can spread low-income people around in different neighborhoods to affordable housing as opposed to just all concentrated. I think you can put a lot of senior citizens in one location, but the idea of just putting all poor people in one location is terrible. And they're so terribly run. I mean, I saw apartments that have been burned out for 1, 2, 3, 5 years that they haven't fixed. I saw a thing on Channel 11 News. Some woman had died in her apartment during COVID, probably 2 years ago, and they just found her skeleton. I mean, that's a disgrace. And the electrical violations that took place at the housing in the Bronx. The attorney said we shouldn't even be looking at civil violations. We should be looking at criminal violations. So there's public housing. There's rental housing. I have a bias. We need to create more affordable home ownership housing. We need to look at converting some of these office spaces that are no longer being used because of remote work, whether we can convert them into housing and require that there be affordable housing as part of them. The governor is not going to get an affordable housing tax credit done. It looks like it's going to expire when the legislature goes home in the beginning of June. That's a disgrace. She squandered her leverage in this budget process so she could get the Buffalo Bills deal done. I don't know if everybody's familiar with that, but she gave $1 billion to the Buffalo Bills, the most lucrative giveaway in the history of the NFL football league, to get them to stop from leaving New York. And there was no public hearing. She announced it 4 days before the budget was due, and she rammed it through, got it passed. That was her big accomplishment. And my question is why wasn't there a public hearing, number one? But more importantly, you're spending $1 billion to stop the Buffalo Bills from leaving New York. What about all the people that are leaving New York who can't afford to live here? We need to be focused on, see, the problem that's broken in our politics is that the politicians are not listening to the people. That's what democracy is supposed to be. That if you don't listen to the people, you get thrown out of office. Everybody thinks they can get elected no matter what. All they have to do is worry about a primary. So the Democrats pander to the left, Republicans pander to the right, and forget about the people.
Yes.
Every poll and every town hall I do, people are concerned about crime. They're concerned about taxes and affordability, including affordable housing, and they're concerned about education for their kids. Those are not even being discussed.
Yes.
I'm talking too long again. Sorry.
Thank you, Congressman. I think we all enjoy your passion on the issues. It's better than kind of coming here with a bunch of talking points already rehearsed. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I have some rehearsed things too.
I think you have more question on immigration.
Yes, I just had one more for you here, Congressman. So as you probably very well know, the Northeast is the second largest region of African immigrants. And locally, there's now been this movement that's very exciting, that is going to be allowing green card holders and other immigrants who are local to have say in their local governance, which I think personally, it's something that's very powerful, that does say to the immigrant community, especially as the African community, it's a very entrepreneurial community. It's a very diverse community as well. We have Francophone speaking members, we have Anglophone, we have various religions and religious followings as well. However, community building, and I love that you mentioned about generational wealth building, because as African immigrants, we are also one of the largest exporters of currency. As in, when we make so much money here, we do send a large bulk home. The diaspora at some times has kept Africa up, actually. And so some of that is stemmed from not feeling as though we can always establish roots here in a stronger way. And I think that things like affordable housing do that. But I'm curious to know, since you've come here to Africa this evening, to these different folks who have different pools of constituents of yours, what is your vision for the African community? What is your vision for creating more economic initiatives for the African community, language access, civic engagement access, and any other kind of very specific to this niche community here, any vision that you have?
So I am, very, very empathetic and very passionate about serving immigrants. I have a very warm feeling for immigrants. My father was born in Italy. 3 of my grandparents were immigrants, 2 from Italy, 1 from England. I've always been very involved in ethnic politics. I have an African outreach team on my campaign that I was just campaigning up at the Tracy Towers in the Bronx. I don't know if you know that place or not, but
yeah, it's wonderful.
I was just up there this weekend on Sunday, campaigning there with my African team. And I have an African leader. And I'd like to bring more of you, if you decide you like me, onto my team, because I need the people on my team. You played a video earlier of one of my introductory videos where I talked about what I did for the Latinos. When I was mayor of my hometown, I was 31 years old. The first year I was in office, I created the first day worker shape-up site anywhere on the East Coast of the United States of America to serve immigrants, so that if they went to work and they didn't get paid, there'd be somebody to advocate for them to make sure they got paid. If they didn't get hired, they could learn to stay and speak English or learn a job skill. And those same guys that were on the street corner back in 1994 now have their own businesses and their own homes, and their children went to school with my children. And when I in the African community, I'm finding that they're very highly educated, and they're very much devoted to the same values that were promoted in my family's immigrant experience and most immigrant family experiences, which are very strong family-oriented, value education, remember your native land, but also have adopted America with a great passion. And I always say to people, you can be in America and you can be here for 5 years or 5 generations. You're just as American as long as you adopt the concept that we're striving for, that we've never achieved yet, which is that all men and women are created equal. That's something we need to work towards constantly. And every group has been discriminated against. I can tell you about my family's discrimination if we had the time. Nobody's been discriminated against more than Black Americans. So we have to strive together to make it better. And we need our new immigrants to help us to be a better place. So there will be immigrants in my administration at top level positions, because I've always worked to make my government look like the people that I represent. And finding someone from the African community will be easy to do, because there's so much talent that I've come across already to find top level professionals. Let me just say one other thing. I know that you want to say something more. I apologize. When I was county executive in Nassau County in 2002, larger than 11 states, I appointed a Black police commissioner from the New York City Police Department as the commissioner of police in Nassau County. Think of how difficult that was to do in 2002. I appointed 2 Black deputy county executives for economic development. I appointed a Latina commissioner of health, a Latina commissioner of mental health, a Black deputy county executive for parks and public works. Because you can talk about minority and women-owned business contracts you want to give out, but if your team's not on board, your public works commissioner will say, "Oh, we couldn't find anybody qualified." Nobody applied. Nobody registered. Nobody had the private experience. You have to have a team that has power to help implement these ideas to make it real, that look like the people that you represent. So every politician says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I can do it because I've done it. And if you hear me tonight and you say, oh, I like this guy, Tom Suozzi, he seems like a good guy, I need you to tell your friends and tell your neighbors and tell your coworkers and spread the word. If you hear me tonight and say, I don't like Tom Suozzi, he's no good, he talked too much, he didn't let us ask enough questions, he wouldn't stop talking, I'm not voting for him, then I ask you, please just keep it to yourself.
Thank you very much, Congressman Mory. I'll let you handle the rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Yelishwa. Those were amazing questions. We only have like 1 minute or so, so we can give a chance to some of the leaders to ask minimum one question before we leave. Does anybody has any questions? So that we can, this is your chance. We don't have time.
How about Edwina Tepoco? Does she have a question? Was it Tepoco? Which is it?
Santi Patmata has a question. Please go ahead. That's the question that we're going to take. We're going to end exactly at 8.
Yes.
We only have
Thank you very much, Congressman. We are happy to have you back. We have a problem with our families. You cannot be in America and have your family in Africa. Please help us to join together. My family, I live alone in America. And this was only because I didn't have help. I need help. I really regret the fact that I didn't know the rules of immigration. And I came to America, all my family was entitled to their green cards. But I didn't know the rules of the immigration. My children lost their eligibility because they were not able to enter after the World Trade Center.
Okay. Tanti, can you ask the question because we ran out of time already?
So, Fatimata, where do you live? Who's your Congress member?
My Congress member is Fernando Cabrera.
No.
Who is it?
No.
Fernando Cabrera.
Fernando Cabrera.
That's not Congress. That's probably a state senator or a state assembly person. Why don't Sydney is on the phone with us here from my office. Sydney, just come on the screen for 1 second.
I am here suffering too much.
Yeah, so we have to try and help you to navigate the system. So your Congress member can do that. But we can help you to get started and try and find your member of Congress to work with it. And we just let them know we're working on it because we don't want to get them mad that we're helping their constituents.
Thank you so much.
I can take down your information and get you connected to the right Congress member.
Yeah. So Sydney, who are you in touch with on this call?
Me, sorry. I'm going to and I'll send her contact to Sydney.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, please. Thank you so much.
Okay. Now, where is everybody from on the call? Which countries are you from?
I'm from Senegal.
From where?
I'm from Senegal.
Senegal. How do they say thank you in Senegal?
Jërëjëf.
What is it?
Jërëjëf.
Jërëjëf?
Yes. Jërëjëf. Jërëjëf. J as in Jacob, E as in Edward, R as in Ronald, F, U as in umbrella, F as in Frank. Jërëjëf. Yeah. Yes, jërëjëf.
Jërëjëf.
We have people from Mali, from Burkina Faso, from South Africa, from Guinea, from everywhere, basically.
From Chad as well.
From Chad?
Chad, yes. Ahmed is the president of the Chadian community.
I look forward to learning more about each of your countries. I've only visited Kenya, and I've gotten to know a lot of Nigerians and Gambians during the campaign. Who else do I know? Oh, I've met a lot of people. I met a lot of people from Ghana the other day at Tracy Towers. Etienne.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This
You're breaking up a little bit.
Can you introduce yourself? You know, your name and where you're from. And
Burkina Faso. That's in West Africa. And my question is that in our community, like you were saying, most of us are, I would say, college graduated.
Herman, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, you break? I'm breaking, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm in a noisy place. I don't want to.
I heard you say
Maybe you can type it. Maybe you can type it in the chat, and then we can read it for you.
Okay, maybe that's will be fine.
I heard you say many of you are college educated. I heard that part. Just so everybody knows, 66% of New Yorkers, 60% of Americans do not graduate from college. And we should encourage people to go to college and help people to go to college. But we have to do a better job with people who don't go to college and helping them get job skills as electricians and plumbers and carpenters and computer programmers, and so people can make enough money so they can afford to live here and get job skills.
Absolutely. Thank you, Congressman. I know that we're a bit over time here, and surely this will not be our last conversation. I think this was a really good beginning introduction to you. I know it was for myself. I think others share that sentiment. And so, Mory, I think you can, close us out, and thank you for your time, Congressman. We've really appreciated your audience.
Absolutely. We don't want to hold you for too long. Hopefully we'll be able to schedule another meet and greet before the elections. But as we say, as community leaders, we have to engage our elected officials. So it's a great honor for you to take for us to take your time to actually come and meet with us and answer a few questions.
Well, it's my honor also, and I need your help in this campaign. I'm fighting for the people. I have a heart for the people, and I have the skills to do the job. And I have a wonderful running mate. Her name is Diana Reyna. She was a city councilwoman for 12 years in Brooklyn. She was the deputy borough president under Eric Adams for 4 years. And when she's elected, she'll be the first Latina elected statewide in the history of New York State. And she's also the child of immigrants from the Dominican Republic. So, we have a very pro-immigrant team with great feeling for the values of immigrants and the risk everybody's taking to come to a new country, sometimes under great strain, like Fatima, who's here by herself and she can't find anybody to help take care of her. I understand what's going on, and I wish you all the best, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to all of you.
Absolutely.
We can continue to communicate.
Everything I've done in my career has prepared me for this particular job at this particular time.
Over 25 years ago, Tom Suozzi became one of the first public officials to offer help to undocumented workers.
Men who were looking for work could gather at one location. And if you didn't get paid, someone would advocate for you. And if you didn't get hired, you could stay and learn English or the job skills.
As Nassau County executive, he oversaw the lowest crime rate in the history of Long Island.
We did gun buyback programs to get the guns off the street.
Tom felt that the police should not just patrol the community, but be part of the community.
Now, crime in New York is rising, and Tom will help put more cops on the beat and give judges the power to take violent offenders off the streets. In Congress, Tom led the fight to repeal the cap on state and local tax deductions, devastating New York's middle class.
My family has paid thousands more in federal taxes.
We've seen Tom be out in front of this and not back down.
No matter what the meeting was, I always brought up the issue of salt. Salt, salt, salt. And it worked.
Now, Tom will fight to roll back New York's sky-high property and income taxes. Tom Suozzi's always believed public office is all about getting things done for people. From pulling Nassau County from the brink of bankruptcy to cleaning up some of New York's worst polluted sites.
In a lot of ways, Tom Suozzi is kind of a throwback.
I like to call myself a common sense Democrat. Politicians are too focused on being politically correct. I'm focused on doing the correct thing for the people of New York. The far right and the far left has gone too far, and they're stopping us from getting things done.
He's driven by what the issue is.
He's really interested in other people.
Listening to their problems and then fixing them.
Tom would tell you it all comes from his family, a father born in Italy who faced discrimination like many immigrants, and his mother, Marguerite.
My mom was a very remarkable woman, really devoted to helping other people, complete strangers even. We'd be driving home from school, and she'd see a woman walking with her grocery bags, and she'd pull over and pick them up, give the woman a lift.
Maybe that's what Tom has been doing the past 30 years. Maybe that's the whole point of public service, lifting up people you don't know.